When the holidays start to feel a bit repetitive, reach for a Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry and put your twist on tradition. A bold cranberry and winter spice flavor fusion, Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry is a refreshing way to shake things up this sipping season. And only for a limited time. Sprite. Obey your thirst.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. You're ready to move your business forward, but first, you need to find the right team. Start your search with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It can help you reach qualified candidates fast, ensuring your listing is the first one they see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. See the results for yourself. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
It's 7v7 soccer. Smaller the pitch, faster the action. The world's elite soccer clubs compete for their share of a massive $5 million prize. Catch World Sevens on TNT, True TV, and HBO Max December 5th through the 7th.
Oh, Hilton stay, your beds are soft and cozy. No lumpy couch, no stiff futon, no shower line at crack of dawn. Oh, Hilton stay.
When you want holiday comfort you can count on, it matters where you stay. Enjoy comfortable rooms and friendly service when you stay with Hilton instead. Save up to 25% this season when you book with Hilton. Hilton for the stay. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. Jay Kelly, the new film from Academy Award nominee Noah Baumbach. George Clooney stars as an actor confronting his past and present on a journey of self-discovery, alongside Adam Sandler as his devoted manager. Critics are calling it a declaration of love to the chaotic art of filmmaking, with the Wall Street Journal praising it as a transcendent comedy drama. Watch Jay Kelly December 5th, only on Netflix.
All right, Duke fans, welcome to the latest edition of DBR Bites. I'd love to tell you what number episode this is, but I just didn't have time to look it up before I started recording. Usually when I can't figure it out, I rely on my partner in crime. I'm Jason, by the way. No duh. I rely on Donald.
This has been a great start, sir.
Yeah, exactly. We're all over the place. I usually rely on Donald to tell me what number episode we're on, but Donald can't join me today, so I'm here with Scott Rich. Scott, thank you for filling in. Thank you for leaving your delightful baby for a moment, putting the baby down so that you could chat with me as we're going to talk about Michigan State. We're going to talk about the Duke-Virginia game coming up this weekend. We're going to talk about the ACC-SEC Challenge. We got all kinds of stuff on tap. How are you doing, my friend?
I've recovered from being in Ann Arbor to watch Michigan get absolutely manhandled by Ohio State this past weekend. That was less than enjoyable, but still, I was there. It was cold too. It was one of the coldest Michigan games I've ever been to. I'm now back at Connecticut with the baby, ready to watch some college basketball. Because as soon as the football game was over, I was like, it's basketball season. Let's go.
Exactly. Well, actually, Duke fans will tell you we got
that's true. Not basketball season. It's not just basketball season just yet.
We got a big game coming up this weekend. Before we get to that, as I promised, I looked through all the headlines after the victory over Florida, and there are a couple. You folks, the inbox kept on the DBR podcast at gmail.com inbox. Just every time I clear it out, it was fill up again with more and more headlines. You folks really brought some good stuff. So I'm going to shout out a few of these. Again, this is for the previous game, but just the nature of when Donald and I recorded, we couldn't quite get all these on in time. So we're going to do them now. Steve Eisengrau. Steve sent me a poem. You ready for this, Scott? Roses are red. These devils wear blue. Last year was really good. This year is too. I like that, Steve. It's
Kept not the structure.
Yeah, it's not Florida specific, but I think that people are opening their eyes that this is, as great as last year's team was, we may have another national title contender on our hand. Ryan Balch gave us this. He said, the Devils flipped the script with a triple and a tip. I like that. I thought that was good. The triple and the tip, of course, the story of that Florida game. Ted Allen, Cam Chomps Champs in challenge.
Love the alliteration.
The alliteration is always popular. And the last one is this: Eric Blumenfeld. Now, this is not a headline. Eric sent us a piece of news. He said, breaking news following Boozer's dominant performance versus Florida, Blue Devils to honor freshman phenom by naming their arena Cameron Indoor Stadium. I thought
that's a great Onion headline that will get stolen if it hasn't already.
Yeah, exactly. Duke to rename Cameron Indoor Stadium after Cameron Boozer. That's good stuff, Eric. So, all right. So now we can put Florida in the rearview mirror and we can look ahead to Michigan State. This is, Scott, the story at Michigan State every year after year after year, is they play a super tough schedule and they lose a bunch of games. Like this is every season, Tom Izzo starts out like, you're like, oh my God, he's playing like 5 top 10 teams. What's he doing? And he loses like 4 of them. And everyone's like, oh, Michigan State's in terrible trouble. And then suddenly Big Ten season rolls around and they just start picking up win after win after win. And they're a 3 seed. Like that is every Michigan State season for the past decade. This season is not that way. They played the tough schedule, but they're unbeaten against it right now. It is kind of scary. If they have the usual Tom Izzo is going to get us, to peak condition by February and March that most Michigan State teams have, and this is where they are right now, it is a scary situation for college basketball, is it not?
It's the Big Ten is going to be interesting. Big Ten basketball, Michigan State basketball. Those matchups could be for Big Ten championships and 1 seed, not to mention Purdue. You could be looking at 3 of the top 4 or 5 teams in the country being in the Big Ten right now.
Yeah, no question about it. And Michigan State, by the way, is number 10 in KenPom, number 10 in the net. We have gotten the NCAA's net rankings, and we will be following those all season long. Although, Scott, I know you're very skeptical of the early season net, right?
The early season net is quirky. I always tend to write a little something about this on the Duke Basketball Report site. This year, my favorite is, according to the net, Yale is the number 25 team in the country. Belmont, I think, is number 33. I love those mid-majors. I don't think that's true.
Okay, yeah. But in any event, the net currently loves Michigan State. So does Ken Pomeroy. Michigan State is a really, really, really good team. And Scott, I'm going to give you the assignment that usually falls to Donald. Tell us a little bit about their record so far. I mentioned they're undefeated. Who've they played? How have they looked? Give me a little bit of that, and then I'll get through the metrics and the players.
This is a task I'm very well suited for, considering I am hate watching Michigan State very often, given my sojourn to Ann Arbor that I briefly mentioned. Michigan State, like you said, they're undefeated. They have wins at home against Arkansas, close game, 3-point win. They really dismantled Kentucky in the Champions Classic before our own game against Kansas, to the point that Kentucky's coach had a very interesting press conference afterwards about how, basically just it was accepting defeat. It was very odd. Big Blue Nation is a little bit concerned after that. And then they went out, they beat North Carolina in their MTE by a fairly convincing margin. And then not to be overlooked, Iowa was undefeated going into their matchup this weekend. It was at Breslin, and Michigan State dismantled them pretty thoroughly. It's a pretty solid, that's 4 probably, Iowa may be a stretch, but that's 3-4 Q1 wins so far. And again, this is a Tom Izzo team that has traditionally started slow and ramped up. Part of why they've started fast is because they've had big leaps from their 2 main guys, or the guys who drive this team. Jeremy Fears Jr., who's their sophomore point guard, was a bit player. And sorry, he's a junior point guard, excuse me.
Yeah, he is a junior, yes.
He was a bit, ESPN is throwing me off. ESPN has him as a sophomore right now. But
they're
3
wrong.
years of, they're very, very wrong. He was more of a contributor. He was playing about 20 minutes a game. Michigan State's starting lineup fluctuated a bunch outside of Jace Richardson last year, but he was getting about 20 minutes a game, putting up 7 points. He's basically doubled all of his major stats this year as the primary point guard. 9.4 assists per game, shooting 90% from the free throw line, 40% from deep, 12 points a game. The thing on him has been, is that shooting, is that 40% from deep that 91% free throws, is that small sample size or not? Last year, he only shot 34% from three and 73% from the line. The year before, as a freshman, that three-point percentage was 16%. He was not shooting a lot of threes. So there is a question of, is this sustainable, or has he really turned the corner?
Well, wait, I'm gonna stop you really quick because you've infringed upon my territory. But it's
please, sir, stop me before I go too far.
No, yeah, it's perfectly fine, and you're right. And I'm going to be talking about Jeremy Frears in just a minute. But just keeping these things the way we typically do them. Let's get into a little bit of the advanced analytics before we get to the specific players, if we can. And as I mentioned, this team is number 10 in Ken Palm is Michigan State. They are really, really great on defense. Third best defense in terms of defensive efficiency in the country. 32nd best offense. And it jumps out at you how slowly they play. Michigan State has only played 2 games this season with more than 70 possessions. They played Iowa. You mentioned this on Tuesday. The game only had 58 possessions. Scott, what? 58 possessions? I mean, Duke plays slow, especially we play fast on offense, we play slow on defense. Michigan State plays slow on everything. We play slow. We haven't had a game all year with fewer than 65 possessions. I don't know how Michigan State and Iowa played a game with 58 possessions. That's like half of an Alabama game. It's kind of crazy. And the reason I think primarily is that they are methodical on offense, obviously, and they are stifling on defense. I mentioned the third best defensive team in the country. They do just about everything well. They're top 20 in block shots. They only allow their opponents to hit like 28% from 3, so you're not hitting 3-pointers against them. They only allow you to hit about 46% from 2. Look, usually you got to be at 50% on your 2-pointers. Tough to get there against Michigan State. They're good, not great, but they're good at forcing turnovers. But they are, Scott, here comes the theme that we're about to have, the rebounding. And Duke just faced this against Florida. We saw what this was like against Florida. Michigan State is a truly great rebounding team. Their defensive rebounding, they only allow 24% of missed shots to become offensive rebounds. So, and that's just a really, really low number. That's top 20 in the country. On the offensive end, oh my God, Scott, I'm terrified of this because we just watched Florida get almost half the offensive rebounds. Michigan State may do the same thing. They are every bit as good as Florida at grabbing offensive rebounds. They average the 7th best offensive rebounding rate in the country, does Michigan State, at close to 42.5%. They live off of that on offense. It's something that, I'll get into exactly who's going to do it, but Duke has got it. If we have another game like we did against Florida where the opposing team is just like, yeah, just chuck it at the basket because we're going to get the rebound and we'll be in better position when that happens, that's going to be just a huge, huge problem for Duke. One other thing to mention about Michigan State's offense, you mentioned Jeremy Frears. This is a team that lives off the pass. This is not a team that creates a lot for themselves. They assist. This is a stunning number. They assist on 68.6% of their made baskets. That's the 4th highest assist rate in the country. It basically means that other than like a guy getting out and getting, his own fast break or something like that, Michigan State is primarily passing the ball to someone who's taking a shot. That they just aren't a team that takes many shots at all, off their own creation. It's going to be a real challenge, I think, for Duke to try and control Jeremy Frears. By the way, Michigan State doesn't take a lot of threes. They're among the bottom 50 teams in the country in terms of three-point field goal rate. They're, exactly average at hitting them. They don't have anybody in this team that you're like, well, that guy's going to go, be really careful. That guy's going to hit a bunch of three-pointers. There's just no one on their team like that. And I want to get into the players now really quickly. You already mentioned Jeremy Frears. He's the engine that makes everything go. Like you said, he's averaging 9.4 assists per game. That's just a ridiculous. That's a silly number. Did you see, Scott? He has the number 1 assist rate in the country.
Not surprising when you're putting up almost 10 a game.
So, like I said, 9.4. Yeah, close to 10. His assist rate is better than 51%. I mean, when he's on the floor, more than half the baskets. that Michigan State gets. It gets off an assist from Jeremy Frears. That's outrageous. That's ridiculous. That was enough that I said, I'm going to go back and look at history. I want to see, when was the last time there was someone in college basketball who had an assist rate above 50%? It's happened. It happened about 5 years ago. That gentleman's name was Ja Morant when he was at Murray State. You know someone else who came close to that number? Didn't quite get to 50%, but came very close to it? Trae Young when he was at Oklahoma. Ja Morant, Trae Young, and Jeremy Frears. That's the territory that this guy's in right now. I mean, these are just eye-popping, wow kind of numbers. You mentioned the Kentucky game. He had 13 assists against Kentucky. Oh, my Lord. I mean, and the other thing is, the big question about him is the shooting so far this year, if it's real or not. And you brought this up. I just don't, I don't think, I know Tom Izzo guys get better. I know that this is sort of what Izzo is all about. But the leap that he has had from three-point shooting, for him to be hitting 42% of his threes, I think is not sustainable based on what we've seen from him in the past. Maybe it is, but I really hope it's not. And his free throw shooting, I mean, like, dude's at 91%. He's hit 32 out of 35 free throws in the season. He's not going to stay at 91%. There's just no way. Let me talk really quick about some of the other players, but before I do, I want to mention something that I think is unique about Michigan State. Because as I talk about these guys, every single guy I'm going to talk about here, there are a couple guys on the team who are transfer portal guys. They got two dudes in their 10-man rotation.
Oh, don't bring up the transfer portal to Mr. Tom Izzo.
Yeah.
He will lecture you for a very long time about his thoughts on said portal.
Yes. Tom Izzo hates what college hoops has become. He does not like the portal at all. Other than their fifth starter and like their eighth, ninth man, every other guy on this team is someone who Tom Izzo's like, yeah, you're coming here. You're going to stay here for a few, 2, 3, 4 years at least. You're going to work hard. You're going to get physical. You're going to learn to play the brand of basketball we play here at Michigan State. Like, that's just how it works here. And it works for him. There's no other team in the country. I mean, other than maybe like the service academies, I guess. There's no other power conference team in the country that is constructed and built the way Michigan State is built. Am I wrong? Do you agree?
I mean, you can make the argument that in terms of raw transfer out, from last season, Duke and Michigan State have a similar trajectory. Michigan State is obviously older. They had one major transfer. Trey Holloman went obviously to NC State. He's playing down the road.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could make the argument that Duke and Michigan State, that John Shire is trying. He's not getting quite as old because he's keeping higher caliber guys. But it's that same roster building technique.
I would argue that it's different because Shire's bringing in a bunch of freshmen who are NBA talents right away, and that is not at all Izzo has good freshmen. I'm going to talk about one of them. Izzo has good freshmen. He gets good freshmen all the time, but for the most part, he's saying to guys, "Hey, you're going to be here 3 or 4 years, and by the time you're a junior, I mean Jeremy Frears is a great example of it. You mentioned." The guy was, in the rotation, but not a key player. And now he's suddenly, challenging Braden Smith for a Big Ten Player of the Year. I think him and Yaxel Landeberg, that's a three-way race right now. And this is a guy who at the start of the season, like if you'd said, oh, he's going to be all Big Ten, you'd been like, who? But that's what Izzo does. Let's talk about a couple of these other guys on the team. And in addition to Jeremy Frears, the guy that Frears probably throws the ball to the most is Jackson Kohler. 6'10", 245. This is a big man. He's their leading scorer, more than 14 points per game. Grabs about 10 rebounds per game. His offensive rebounding rate is among the top 30 players in all the country. Dude's just a hard worker. Dude's just like, I'm in here. I brought my lunch pail, and you're going to have trouble removing me from the paint.
I love, I hate to love a Michigan State guy, but you love Jackson Kohler, and he's the type of guy who it feels like he's been at Michigan State for 20 years.
Yeah.
Michigan State always has a Jackson Kohler, just like Wisconsin always had a Frank Kaminsky type for 10, 15 years. Just like Iowa always had a three-point specialist who may or may not have been the coach's son for about 10 odd years. Tom Izzo finds that guy. He finds the 6'10" big guy who's not an explosive athlete,
No.
who's not going to jump off the page, but is going to be fundamentally sound and is going to get you the easy baskets around the rim that you expect a guy of his size to make. And that's exactly what Jackson Kohler does.
Yeah, and by the way, though, the thing that's expanded about his game is that he's not just a dude who does his work in the post. He is willing to go outside and stretch the floor and take threes every now and then. He hit 4 3-pointers against East Carolina. He's hitting 43% of his threes on the season. But the biggest thing I think for Duke is we can't let Jackson Kohler against Cam Boozer is going to be a serious matchup of two very physically strong guys who are great rebounders and who know how to get offensive rebounds. Jackson Kohler routinely gets 4, 5, 6, 7 offensive rebounds in one game. And if he's doing that against Duke, it's just going to be a big problem.
One of the things I think is interesting, both Kohler and Fears, part of how they have evolved this year has been that outside shot. Both of them, it's not just that they are making more, it's that they are taking more.
Yeah.
Jackson Kohler's gone from taking about 1.5 threes a game last year to 3.5 threes per game this year. For Jeremy Fears, that's going from just 1 3 a game to 2.5 threes a game. So it does seem to be a concerted effort from the Michigan State coaching staff. It certainly seems like Michigan State doesn't seem that think that the 3-point shooting uptick is a mirage because they're building their offense around it consciously.
All right. So next guy I want to talk about, I'm going to go ahead and predict right now that at least once in this game, Duke fans' jaws will hit the floor. Mm-hmm. They'll be like, oh my God, because of something that Cohen Carr has done. Cohen Carr is a 6'6" wing. He's a junior. I mean, to describe him as an elite athlete is like insulting to the word elite. My dude, okay, reportedly, I haven't seen it measured, but reportedly his vertical is 51.5 inches. I've seen him play. I don't doubt it. Like that's a stupid number. That's like
he flies.
Yeah. Dudes who have 44-inch vertical leaps, you're like, wow. He's a half foot more than that. The past 2 years, he's really just been nothing but a human pogo stick waiting to explode. But it really feels like he's finally learned some actual basketball skills in his third year because he's shooting more 3-pointers. And he's not shooting a ton of them, but he's shooting more threes. He's hitting some of them. He's attacking the basket a little bit off the dribble. He's still got a long way to go, but he's averaging more than 11 points per game. And I'm telling you, like this, there will be a moment. There'll be a moment in this game. It may be a block shot. It may be a dunk. It may be him jumping over someone's head to get a ball going out of bounds. But Cohen Carr will do something, and you will just be like, oh, man, Jason told me this guy could jump. I didn't realize.
Cohen Carr wasn't projected to be a starter going into the season for Michigan State. I'm blanking on the name, but one of the few transfers in Michigan State had a transfer that was supposed to sort of slot in at the 3. He got injured over the summer. It's unclear whether or not he's going to play this year, and Cohen Carr sort of slotted into that starting role. And one of the things that Michigan State fans will say is that Tom Izzo is running offense for Cohen Carr. It used to just be everything he would get would be that sort of extra play. His just pure athleticism, an alley-oop, maybe a putback. They are running plays for him to get him in spots to use his athleticism, which is something that they never did during his first 2 years on campus.
Just really quick, there are 2 other guys I wanted to mention super fast. One of them is the center, 6'11", 245, Carson Cooper. He's not much of an offensive guy. I mean, he's a senior. He's seen his role grow every year at Michigan State. This year he's around 10 points per game, which isn't bad. About 6 rebounds per game. He will be a test for Big Pat. He will bang on Big Pat. It'll be, there'll be a war in the middle there. He's, your typical Tom Izzo player. But the other guy I really wanted to mention is they have a freshman, their top front court reserve, a guy named Cam Ward. He's a wing. He's like 6'8", 225. He was a top 50 recruit. He wasn't like a 5-star. He was like a 4-star. He's really outplaying his ranking. He's long. He's strong. He's very tough, the typical Tom Izzo kind of player. He missed their game against Iowa the other day, but he is expected to play against Duke. He's only averaging about 16 minutes per game, but he's scoring 9 points per game in those 16 minutes. That's a pretty big number, considering only 16 minutes per game. 5 rebounds per game in 16 minutes. If you doubled that, like if he was playing starter minutes, he'd be at 18 and 10. Cam Ward is a player. Now, he's going to stay in the paint. He's not going to venture outside. But he can be a difference maker in the paint. When they played Arkansas, you mentioned that game earlier this year. Cam Ward, coming off the bench, went for 18 and 10 in a 3-point win for the Spartans. So this is a guy, this is a guy who can be a difference maker for them. And Scott, Duke has tons more basketball talent. Tons more basketball talent. We have better athletes. But there is a reason Sparty is 8-0. They work harder than everyone. They are experienced. They know how to play together. This is a classic sum of the parts is better than the individuals kind of team. I look at the roster and I'm not sure any of these guys, I'm serious about this. I'm not sure any of these guys play in the NBA. I guess Cohen Carr is so athletic that some team will give him a shot. But I mean, you've seen is there anybody else in this team that you're like, oh, that guy's a future NBAer? I don't think so. Whereas go ahead.
Someone might give Fears. So Jeremy Fears' brother was at Oklahoma and was a first-round pick. So you always think, okay, if he maintains this, maybe the pedigree gives him a shot. But to go to your point about this team not having anyone that jumps off the screen, they have three guys, the three you mentioned, Fears, Carr, and Kohler, who are playing more than 28 minutes a game. Other than that, there's just this huge mess of guys who are paying, anywhere between 12 and 20-ish minutes a game for this team.
They go 10 deep.
Teams, the Tom Izzo teams are not the type of teams where you say, hey, I get them into foul trouble and we're in great shape. He's got all of these guys. He's got 10 guys that he will play and he's comfortable playing. That's part of how they can play that physical brand of basketball. So this is not the type of game where you say, hey, let's, Jackson Kohler is their best player. Cam will get him into foul trouble. They don't mind that because, yes, Jackson Kohler is their best player, but they've got 2-3 more bodies that they'll roll out and go get their 2-3 fouls on Cam in that time.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct about it. Ken Pomeroy predicts that Michigan State is a small 1-point favorite in this game. Pomeroy's computer says Duke is only an underdog in 2 games this year. It is the game against Michigan State in the Breslin Center. We haven't mentioned this game's a true road. Like the Breslin Center is going to be rocking. It is going to be.
We are lucky that it is a noon game. Let's put it that way, because the students will have had less time to prepare for the game.
Yeah. So Pomeroy says this game against Michigan State at Michigan State, Duke is an underdog. The only other game that he has Duke as an underdog is our game on a neutral floor in Washington against Michigan. Duke is number 3 in Pomeroy. Michigan's number 1. So he says Michigan's favored in that game. Every other game, including the game at Louisville. Louisville's dropped a little bit in Pomeroy's rankings lately. We're going to talk about that in a second. Every other game, Pomeroy projects Duke to win. Not saying we're going to, that we automatically win all those games, of course. But just if you look down the list, the Blue Devils are favored in every single game except this one and except the other game against Michigan. 2 big games against the state of Michigan. What?
Duke has a chance to be Michigan State champs.
Yes.
This season.
Yes. All right, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, Scott and I are going to come back. We're going to talk about the ACC-SEC Challenge, and we're going to look ahead a little bit. Duke versus Virginia for the ACC title, and maybe, if you squint really hard, maybe a shot at the college football playoff. We'll see. We'll have that in just a moment. Hey, the holidays are almost here, and if you have names still on your list, don't panic. Uncommon Goods makes holiday shopping stress-free and joyful. With thousands of one-of-a-kind gifts you can't find anywhere else, you'll discover presents that feel meaningful and personal, never rushed or last minute.
Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, from moms and dads to kids and teens, from book lovers and sports fans to foodies, mixologists, and gardeners. You'll find unforgettable gifts that are anything but ordinary. And perhaps most importantly, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. Every purchase is a chance to choose something remarkable and feel good about where your money goes.
Look, so don't wait. Make this holiday of the year you give something truly unforgettable. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/DukeBB. That's uncommongoods.com/DukeBB and get 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods. We're all out of the ordinary.
The Who's Down and Who Newville were making their list, but some didn't know Walmart has the best brands for their gifts.
What about toys? Do they have brands kids have been wanting all year?
Yep, Barbie, Tony's, and Lego. Gifts that will make them all cheer.
Do you mean they have all the brands I adore?
They have Nintendo, Nespresso, Apple, and more.
What about...
So the Who answered questions from friends till they were blue. Each one listened and shouted, from Walmart? Who knew? Shop gifts from top brands for everyone on your list in the Walmart app.
We're only a few weeks in, and the season is already wild. Stars are going off, freshmen are making noise, and the action doesn't stop. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is where you can get in on all of it for pro and college basketball.
Yeah, and don't forget the holiday tournaments and the Emirates NBA Cup. Big moments, big matchups, and a whole lot on the line. Don't miss out. Jump in and bet on the action today.
So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code DukeBB. That's code DUKEBB. Bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Say hello to the all-new Alexa Plus and see how Alexa can do so much more for you. Need tickets to see your favorite artist? Craving your comfort restaurant? Just sit back, relax, and talk naturally. Alexa's on it. It learns your style, anticipates what's next, and makes it happen across Echo, Fire TV, and more. Learn more at amazon.com/new Alexa.
All right, we're back from the break, and we're going to get into the ACC-SEC Challenge. Scott, I'm not sure if you listened to the episode a few days ago when Donald and I were previewing our game against Florida, and we talked a little bit about the challenge, and I was like, you know what, there are a lot of these games, the ACC's underdogs in a lot of these games, but most of them are projected to be closer than you might think. And I said, I wouldn't be shocked if the ACC found their way to win 6 or 7 games, which, frankly, I mean, most people would have said, I don't know. ACC wins 6 games on night number 1. We only won one.
And then.
We only won one more. But SEC wins the challenge 9-7. The takeaway from all this, Scott, is that the ACC is far, far more competitive with the SEC than I think folks had expected them to be. I think. You go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, this is something that we talked about the net rankings having just come out. This is something that the net rankings sort of foreshadowed, where the ACC, then the net rankings are all that matter, right? The net rankings are what determine whether something's a quad 1 win or a quad 2 win and all that nonsense. Yep. But the net rankings were much, much higher on the ACC right now than they were at this point last year. And they're going to be even higher after this performance in the ACC-SEC Challenge that, like you said, not many people predicted.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to go through all the results. It is notable that like 3 of the top teams in the SEC, Florida, Tennessee, and Kentucky, all lost. Duke won, North Carolina won at Kentucky, and Syracuse beat Tennessee. That game was like Syracuse was playing without Donnie Freeman, and they still beat Tennessee.
I have no idea what to make of that Syracuse team, a team that arguably could have beaten Houston if they had dealt with the end of game situation a little bit better, but then has looked really bad in almost all their other contests except for against Tennessee. I have no idea what to make of Syracuse entering ACC play.
Yeah, well, and some of the, like Clemson played at Alabama. It was a close game. Clemson was down early, but that was a close game. Louisville kind of got their doors blown off by Arkansas, which I don't know that we mind that much. I sort of like Arkansas being. I want to make sure Arkansas, that game remains a quad 1 game. I think there's little chance that it won't at this point. But SMU was a team that some people thought would be a contender from the ACC. Vanderbilt took care of them really. That was one of the biggest blowouts of the entire challenge. NC State didn't look that great. They had to play at Auburn, and they lost by 10. But there was a lot. Oh, Virginia. That's the other one I wanted. Virginia looked really good. Virginia stomped Texas 88-69. A big old win for the Cavs. Virginia, by the way, 88 points, Virginia. This is a whole new world.
Virginia is a team that it seems like the analytics are much higher on than the human polls at this point in the season, which is very interesting because that's not always been the case. That wasn't always the case for Tony Bennett teams that did not play modern basketball. Virginia looks like a team that is going to sneak up on some people this season.
Yeah, I agree. The big takeaway I have from all this stuff, look, their teams, by the way, like Miami got a win, Notre Dame got a win. Notre Dame beat Missouri. Missouri was undefeated. Those are ACC teams that may be eyeing the bubble, and those kind of wins could be really, really useful when it gets to be bubble time. I feel like coming into the season, I forget exactly the number on the stats game. I think most of us were like around 5 ACC bids, maybe 6. That's what we have in the stat game. You look right now, you say 7 or 8 seems very possible. 9 doesn't even seem impossible. Like the ACC's put itself in a position where you're going to be able to get good wins playing other teams in the conference. And if you posted, I think anyone who posts a winning record in the ACC is very much going to be in the conversation for an NCAA bid. Like you don't need to get to 12 wins or something like that. If you're just at 500 or even above it, you have a shot based on how well the ACC's performed. And the ACC SEC Challenge spoke to that. A lot of people think the SEC is the top league. They only beat us 9-7, and it took a huge comeback on day 2 for them to do that.
It was a bit of a misnomer last season that there were the Power 5 conferences. There weren't. There were 3 power conferences. There was the ACC, the Big 10, and the Big 12, the SEC, the Big 10, and the Big 12,
right.
And then the Big East and the ACC were a tier below. It certainly looks like the ACC is a little bit closer to that Big 10, Big 12, SEC tier than it is to that Big East tier, and that matters. That matters for the amount of wiggle room that Duke has in terms of achieving the top seed that we want to. It matters if, for instance, in a few months we are competing with UConn for the number 1 seed in the East. The quality of the ACC, and if the ACC is indeed a tier above the Big East in all of these metrics, that's a big deal when it comes to setting Duke up for March Madness.
No question about it. All right, let's get to the last thing on our agenda for today. That is Duke versus Virginia for the ACC championship in football. Game in Charlotte on ABC, nationally televised on Saturday night at 8 o'clock. Scott, I'm not sure how well you recall the first time we faced Virginia. The final score was 34-17. It was not that close. Virginia dominated that game. It was kind of close early, but the Cavs broke it open in the second and third quarters. Duke came back late, but my biggest thing I remember from that game was that we couldn't get anything done on offense. It was like unbelievable. I was looking back over the stats. Duke was just 4 of 15 on third downs. They only got 255 total yards. And again, we had a big fourth quarter. Like we played a lot better in the fourth quarter than I didn't go back and find the exact numbers. I mean, Duke barely got to 100 yards through the first half or so. It was really, really, and Virginia, meanwhile, put up 540 total yards of offense. My goodness. Duke couldn't run a lick. We had 42 total yards in the game, less than 2 yards per rush. So I'm going to go ahead and say my key to Saturday's game is that the Duke offense, because Duke's defense has been banged up all year. Virginia's a much better defensive team than offensive team. So I think that maybe the Duke offense, has a chance to hold them down a little bit if they're not constantly on the field because the Duke offense is going 3 and out. But I think the key to this game is Duke's got to have some good long sustained drives. Darian Mensah's got to be the player we saw the first half of the season or so, the player that he was a week ago against Wake Forest. If we get that Darian Mensah, if this Duke team finds variety of offensive execution and can get a running game going a little bit, we get to 300, 350 plus yards of total offense, then we can make this competitive. But if not, if Virginia's defense is again dominating Duke and Duke, can't convert third downs, then this could be another really, really difficult game for the Blue Devils.
So it fascinates me that Virginia beat us by 17 points in Durham in a game, like you said, that really wasn't that close.
Yeah.
The line for this game is 3.5. Last I checked.
Yeah.
Someone thinks something either negatively about Virginia or positively about Duke that performance in Durham a few weeks ago doesn't show. For me, every game that Duke has lost this year, there has been self-inflicted wounds. There was the 5 turnovers against Illinois, along with the silly 2 men with the same number penalty that changed the momentum of that game. And it feels like there has been something like that, a self-inflicted wound where Duke is about to get back in the game or Duke is about to stretch a lead, and every one of its losses that has come back to bite them. If Duke doesn't shoot itself in the foot, this is a 3.5 point game. If Duke shoots itself in the foot, Virginia runs away with it. I think it's as simple as that. We've shown that we can compete with top teams for significant stretches, but it's just a matter of, can this team keep itself in the game to let Darian Mensah be the guy that he's supposed to be and put up the amount of points we need to keep up with these guys?
Well, I'll tell you why it's a 3.5 point game, because Jeff Sagarin's computer, his ranking, his ratings say that Virginia is about 3.5 points better than it's about 3.4 points better than Duke, 3.3. So there's your 3.5 right there. Exactly. The lines understand the analytics. I think there's some not accounting for the fact that Duke hasn't looked great the past few weeks. In that, and for also the fact that I think Virginia has looked pretty good lately. But yeah, this is not a game that Duke can't win, not by any stretch of the imagination. And again, I think the key is we can't let our defense, we can't count on our defense to get too many stops. We have to give the defense a break every now and then, and we've just got to have better offensive execution than we did in the first game. Against a really good Virginia defense. Virginia's defense is easily among the probably best, maybe best in the ACC. Anything else, buddy, before we go?
I will say it's going to be an interesting experience for us as Duke fans in this ACC championship game, because this may be one of the few times where the country is going to be with us as Duke. Most college football neutrals are going to be rooting for Duke in this game because they want college football playoff chaos. They want to see if the College Football Playoff Committee has the cojones to put in 2 group of 5 teams over an ACC team. So it's going to be fun following the social media chatter. If Duke gets up early, there's going to be some fun conversations that are going to be had about what all that means.
Well, and by the way, the big other game, in my opinion, the game that matters for whether or not Duke has a chance to make the college football playoff is that James Madison and Troy game, which will be played tomorrow, Friday, at 7 p.m. for the Sun Belt Championship. And James Madison's a pretty substantial favorite in that game. But if they lose that game, I'm absolutely convinced at that point that Duke is playing for a chance at the college football playoff on Saturday. We'll know well before Duke plays in the ACC championship game. And I'll say this, if for some reason James Madison wins and it looks like Duke has no chance to make the college football playoff, oh well, we'll just have to give them an ACC title anyway.
We'll be very happy. I will say it was very important, and again, the people who follow the college football playoff and the rankings and all that committee stuff, it's very important that they ranked James Madison number 25.
Yeah.
That basically gave them no wiggle room to say if Duke wins, they're the sixth best or the fifth best conference champion. The fact that James Madison was ranked 25 means, in no uncertain terms, unless Duke puts up an otherworldly performance, James Madison needs to lose for Duke to make the college football playoff. It's as simple as that.
You've got it. That's correct. All right. We'll be watching that. We'll be watching the Blue Devils play on Saturday in Michigan State and against Virginia in Charlotte. Big weekend for the ACC this weekend. That is Scott Rich. I am Jason Evans. Donald Wine's at the World Cup draw. By the way, that's why Donald couldn't be with us. He's doing unimportant stuff like like, figuring out the World Cup draw. It's kind of amazing. His access is really pretty cool there. Until whenever. Until Donald is done and he's ready to come join me again, probably on Sunday. This is the Duke Band playing us out and taking us home.
I found out today I'm going to the game in DC. My dad I'll be sitting with the Michigan fans, but going.
But
with
wait,
my
will
dad
you be
to
wearing blue?
Michigan.
Will you be wearing?
Oh, of course.
Blue? Yes,
of course.
There you go.
Yeah, but I wasn't going to turn it like if it's a free ticket, but I have to sit with the Michigan fans. I'll go into enemy territory.
Fair exchange for sure.
Exactly.